We're going to go ahead and get started for a moment. We're a little bit behind time on starting, and excuse me for bending over, but this will not come out any further. So I'm going to have to bend over. This is our panel. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves and their titles so that it is perfect and I'm not doing anything incorrect. I will introduce myself. My name is Joel Jones, Joel Thomas Jones. I am one of the co-founders of Neighborhood Over Politics. And before we get started, I would like to introduce our other co-founders and any members that may be in the room as well. Co-founder Jamaica Garrison, she's here somewhere. Oh, stand please for a second. Thank you. Shanice Turner Sloss, this is her brainchild, kind of put this together, and we want to say thank you so much, Shanice. I know she's around here somewhere as well. And then any NOP members, could you please, thank you so much. Okay, just to let you know again, Neighborhood Politics is an advocate organization whose mission it is to end deplorable conditions in City of Dayton neighborhoods through revitalization and collaboration. Okay, so we're here to do this because this is an important issue, and we believe that everybody needs to have an opportunity to speak about this issue so that we can make informed decisions. So that's enough of me talking. So starting to the right, if you could please introduce yourself, or you can, for the panel, feel free to use this if you're not talking loud enough, but this is as far as it'll go up. Okay, we'll start to the right.
And I'm Tammy Clements. I'm the Deputy City Manager for City of Dayton.
Good evening, I'm Robin Lightcap, and I'm the Executive Director with Learn to Earn Dayton.
I'm Daryl Fairchild. I'm a citizen. In my daytime job, I'm the chaplain at Dayton Children's Hospital.
I'm Zakia Sankar Jabbar. I'm a Dayton Public Schools parent, also co-founder and executive director for Racial Justice Now.
And I'm Craig A. Jones, former treasurer, chief financial officer, Dayton City School District.
Okay, so we have several questions here. Again, we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Some of the questions are going to be specific, you know, preschool maybe to Ms. Robin Lightcap, but at the same time, any panel member has the opportunity to speak on that, okay? But some of those people are subject matter experts, so some of the questions may pertain to them specifically. So before we get started, I just want to give you a brief overview of the ordinance. I'm not going to read the whereases, okay, because that's the official language. But the income tax levy is necessary so that the city can increase its resources in order to maintain operations, sustain infrastructure, strengthen neighborhoods, enhance public safety, and invest in pre-kindergarten education. And City of Dayton residents have a just interest in protecting the future of Dayton neighborhoods while creating an opportunity for all residents. And the City of Dayton intends to utilize increased earned income tax revenue in a manner which maximizes future opportunities for all residents while addressing the loss of revenue as a result of budget cuts by the state of Ohio. And the increased earned income tax levy will not impact Social Security, pensions, retirement income, or investment interest. And the 0.25% increase earned income tax rate commencing January 1st, 2017 and ending December 31st, 2024 is estimated to generate an additional $11 million and 0 cents annually in revenue. And the City of Dayton pledges its accountability to its residents by authorizing expenditure of the increased revenue in the following manner. Now therefore, that Section 1, that the increased 0.25% earned income tax revenue as authorized by the ordinance number 31500-16 is hereby to be expended by the City of Dayton as follows. To the extent available, a pledge of $6,700,000 and 0 cents will be designated as necessary revenue for the general fund. These funds will go directly to road repair, vacant lot improvement, parks, and safety enhancements. To the extent available, the remaining funds, an estimated $4,300,000 and 0 cents, will be designated to mark high-quality pre-kindergarten education accessible for all families with preschool-age children who live in City of Dayton. If revenues generated from the proposed municipal income tax levy exceed estimates, any residual funds, shall revert to the general fund for essential municipal services and necessary capital improvement. So that is what we're going to be voting on starting today and through November, and I'll go ahead and get started. This first question is going to be directed towards Ms. Clemens, since she is the City of Dayton Deputy City Manager. Please explain to us what a personal income tax levy is. You could do something.
A personal or an earned income tax levy is a tax which is paid by people that actually work within the City of Dayton. As you mentioned, earned income, it is a person that is working a job. It is not levied against Social Security, pensions, investment income, or those three basically, Social Security, retirement funds, because you have already paid earned income taxes on those revenues.
Okay. And would anybody else in the panel like to comment on that? Okay. So next question. What specific plans does the city have in improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods with the 0.25% personal income tax increase?
Okay. So the funds that would be generated from this increase would be used to really fund the outward-facing services to the community. As mentioned, one is our street maintenance and road repairs. All of the roads within the residential neighborhoods are currently in poor repair. We spend about $1.3 million per year in resurfacing. We will now increase that amount to $4.8 million per year, so that by the end of 8 years, all streets within the City of Dayton will be in good shape. We will also improve all of the city's park facilities in accordance with our master plan. We have begun that work. We will spend on an annual basis enough to make sure that at the end of 8 years, all facilities are up to date. It will also allow us to maintain our fire and EMS services at a high quality level, which will avoid us taking out stations or apparatus, which protects property and life. The next area is vacant lands. We have approximately 5,700 vacant lots within the City of Dayton. Those vacant lots are currently being maintained at about once every 9 weeks. With these additional revenues, we will increase that standard so that we are able to maintain those lots at an 8-inch or less level. We will be maintaining those at about a 4-week cycle. Also, the boulevards at about a once-a-week cycle. So all of the things that are proposed in it, she just read in the ordinance, are to improve the quality of life within the neighborhoods that directly affect us as citizens.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from anyone else on the panel? Okay. So and anyone can answer this one, during the City Commission meeting presentation on September 1st, 2016, Deputy City Manager Mr. Joe Carlett said that the quarter income tax increase will provide 20 officers for hotspot areas. Please clarify whether the 20 officers are new recruits or replacement officers. In addition, please explain the plan and how the use of 20 officers will be used for hotspots. And that's a complicated question and has a lot of parts, so you need to do this. And this is for anyone on the panel. You have a right to comment or explain. And I'll start with you, Ms. Clemens. Thanks so much.
In terms of the policing, there will be additional officers that will also be added to the role. The city is trying to maintain the current level of police within the City of Dayton. Due to attrition, we are losing officers faster than we are able to keep them at the minimum staffing levels for the city. The 20 additional officers will not just be servicing hotspots, but it's really to undertake more community building relationships, community policing strategies that will help us to form better relationships within the communities. Hotspots, Dayton does have hotspots, not just on the west, it's on the east, it's in the north. Hotspots to be able to really provide the additional policing, to be able to gather information, to be able to solve crimes in those areas is just one of the strategies that will be undertaken by the additional police officers. But community policing is probably one of the largest areas, using technology to better be able to investigate and to resolve criminal and crimes that do occur within the neighborhoods. So hotspots is only one strategy. There are multiple strategies that will be undertaken as a result of adding additional officers to the force.
And these additional officers will be added because of attrition of officers retiring.
We are at the
So we
lowest staffing level that we have ever had within the city. They are, we are losing them faster than we can keep them at the minimum level. The 20 gives us a heads up that we can implement some of these additional strategies while also trying to maintain that minimum level.
Would anybody else on the panel like to comment on that? Mr. Fairchild, please.
So I want to support the levy. I think there's good things in it. But I think there's work that the city or the city commission still needs to do. And this issue right here is kind of the crux of it. I'm not sure if that's 20 new officers or if it's 20 replacement officers. I get different answers. When I talked to the chief today, he said our current FTEs is about 345 right at the moment. And his belief that those 20 officers would take us up to 365. Now, the ordinance that Joelle read was the accountability ordinance that the commission passed after they passed the ordinance to bring the levy to the ballot. I don't know if you were around in 1984 and city commission, but they were very specific when they passed these kind of accountability promises to the citizens to say, this is exactly what we're going to do with the revenue. This is so vague, the city commission would never have to come back and take another vote to allocate money in different ways. The language for 20 police officers in the accountability ordinance is for safety enhancements. They can spend that $6.7 million in any way they determine without coming back to us. And so I think this is some work that the city commission still needs to do. They need to go back and get a real accountability ordinance so that we can pay attention and say, are they really doing 365 officers? And if they're not, then they haven't lived up to what they said they were going to do.
Okay, were there any other comments or, Zakia?
Yeah, I would definitely just piggyback on what Daryl has said. I think that that's right. I think that it's overall an issue of trust, I believe, with the city of Dayton. I know citizens who do not have a good relationship with the police in specific areas of the community, despite efforts toward quote-unquote community policing. I'm not sure what that definition that the city is looking at, but if you ask citizens in certain parts of town, especially in these hot spots that they're describing, I think to talk directly to the people who are being directly impacted is extremely important. I also think that this plan around Issue 9 was definitely very secretive. The city did not involve the people who actually live in the city at all very much. It was developed, you know, by mostly individuals who don't even live in the city, and I think that that's an issue. And I think that people who live in the city should be respected enough to be heard from and to have a say in basically what we want for the city. I know that organizations like NOP, like RJN, have asked for specific things around crime prevention, economic development, and all of those different things that impact our community, and that has fallen on deaf ears. And so to come to the community and say, well, this is what we want, vote on Issue 9, vote yes, I think, you know, it's very patronizing to the community, and I definitely encourage people to vote no. There's too many questions in this issue 9, and I think it's very vague.
Any other comments, rebuttals regarding that at all? Okay, moving on. According to the City of Dayton, Ms. Leica, according to the City of Dayton's website, the Universal Preschool Initiative will be formed under a nonprofit organization. What percentage of the proposed $4.3 million will be used for staff salaries, programming? How will Universal Preschool teachers be employed, and what are the required standards? And if you need me to repeat any of that.
So the way we call it Preschool Promise is the name of the program that is in a demonstration mode this year in Northwest Dayton and in Kettering. And we are working with existing preschool providers, both in school districts and in the community, as well as family child care providers. And those are the teachers or the staff. So to answer your question about the staff, we are coming alongside the existing programs and helping support quality improvement, coaching, so that we can improve the quality that our 4-year-olds are experiencing to help them get ready for kindergarten. So I think, if you wouldn't mind repeating the question again to make sure I'm answering the staffing part of
Certainly.
it.
According to the city's website, Universal Preschool Initiative will be formed under a nonprofit organization. If that is correct, please speak to that. What percentage of the proposed $4.3 million will be used for staff salaries and programming? And how will Universal Preschool teachers be employed, and what are the required standards? Will they be present teachers who are already within Dayton Public Schools? Are these new teachers who are going to be coming on board? Things of that nature.
Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of starting.
I understand.
So on the staffing, again, it is working with existing programs and teachers who are there to help enhance the quality, to help them improve their education levels. And it might involve hiring additional people as well. But we are working with all the different provider types, the school district, with the community-based providers and family child care, because we know that parents need choices. Some people work hours that don't fit within the Dayton Public School day. They need care during the summer. They need help sometimes in the second shift or even third shift, so we need to have all those variety of options to serve all families. So that's how the teachers are employed, just like they are now in the various delivery systems. And then you asked a question about the nonprofit side. We are in the process, if the levy does pass in November, then a 501c3 would be formed for Preschool Promise, and that would have the governance and authority and responsibility oversight for the Preschool Promise operations and funding allocation. And as far as the percent of the budget that would be spent on staff salaries and programming, because we are working with the providers that are out there, I can't tell you the exact percent on staff, because we will be funding our providers who are employing all of the staff and the teachers there. So we're providing tuition assistance, quality assistance through the whole program.
Okay. What's that? We're going to come to the audience and get questions. And we have a comment from another panelist.
I understood your question. I thought you were asking the Preschool Promise staff. Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
How much is
Oh.
the actual
Yes.
staff, your staff, getting out of this?
Well, we have, I believe it's about 5%, and let me look at my sheet. 6% we're calling administration, 5% evaluation, 5% on the marketing, and a combination of the quality assistance and the tuition assistance would make up about 80% of the budget.
And the tuition assistance for what students would that be?
For the 4-year-olds in the city of Dayton.
Okay.
Yeah, but what are the income requirements?
It's for all income.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so you guys are starting at the 200% level, is that right?
No,
Or there's this.
it's all
just for-
income levels,
for
yes.
everybody?
The way the tuition assistance model is working this year in our demonstration is it's tiered based on income and based on the quality level of the program that the family attends.
Okay.
Yep.
So would it continue that way?
Well, the reason that we're doing the demonstration this year is so that we can learn what's working well to serve our families and to improve the quality in programs and reach families. So if we need to adapt that and improve upon what we learned this year, then we'll do that. But the intent is to serve all of our 4-year-olds in Dayton. We are not saying this is only for certain income levels.
Okay, so here's a question, Mr. Jones, you can definitely chime in on this, and Ms. Lycott. Where do the City of Dayton preschool programming currently rank regionally and or nationwide? Why are the funds for universal preschool at the current state with Dayton Public Schools pre-K programming being ranked as #1? So what is the need for the Preschool Promise program since Dayton Public Schools is already have a ranked #1 preschool program in the state of Ohio? And considering that DPS programming is not at capacity within the 17 DPS preschool sites, how do we justify Preschool Promise? And if you like to participate in that question, I appreciate it.
So there were several questions again.
I know, right? There are a lot.
We might have to break
So
that down
first-
again.
first
But
is-
maybe we'll start with, so I believe you were saying that Dayton Public Schools is ranked #1 of preschools in Ohio? Is that what you said?
Not
5-star.
5-star.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, Dayton Public Schools sites have been awarded the 5-star rating, which is the highest rating that a program can receive through the state. There are many programs in our community that have the 5-star, including our community-based providers. So it's not just something that is at the school system. However, I would say that we also have a large number of our kids who are not leaving those sites fully ready for kindergarten. And so we know that we have work to do. We need to figure out what can we do to provide supports to all of our children so that they're fully ready for kindergarten. And so the 5-star is an important measure, and it's a backbone, and it shows we're making progress on quality, but it's not sufficient. Until all of our kids have all the skills that they need to be successful, that's really what we're working to achieve. Now, I think you were asking, how do we rate compared to other cities across the state?
No, not how do we rate, just saying that it shouldn't be #1, but that we're 5-star. How do we justify Preschool Promise when Dayton Public Schools preschool programs are not at capacity?
Right. So at this time in the school year, it's typical that we don't have all of the slots filled within Dayton Public Schools in the preschool programs, but it is also typical that very soon we will have those slots filled. Many of our families don't enroll until after the school year has started. With Dayton Public Schools, they are able to serve about 25% of our 4-year-olds in the city of Dayton. So they are not, even when they do fill their slots, there's no way that they can fill all of the need for our 4-year-olds across the city of Dayton. And we also know, like I mentioned earlier, that many of our families, in fact most, are working. And so the school hours and the school schedule, where they're off in the summer, they're off 2 weeks at Christmas time, they only are offering that 6 hours and sometimes even less in the part-day program, does not meet the needs of all of our families. And so we know there has to be a mixed market delivery so that we can serve the needs of all of our families, the ones who need extended hours and need care and education during the summer months. So preschool, Dayton Public Schools is an absolutely vital, essential partner in what we're doing. And it's possible that we will expand capacity there to serve more families there. We're in conversations with Dayton Public Schools and the superintendent to talk about how can Preschool Promise help enhance the vision that they have and meet the needs of the family through their preschool. But we know that the public schools alone cannot meet all the needs in our community.
Any other comments?
So, yeah, I wanted to address that, I believe Robin stated that that students are leaving not kindergarten ready from 5-star rated preschools, but that's absolutely incorrect. If they're leaving Dayton Public Schools, preschools, they are kindergarten ready. If they are in all the research, and I wish somebody from Dayton Public Schools on the panel, but my organization has been very involved with Dayton Public Schools for the last several years. I sit on the Dayton Public Schools Policy Committee and on the Student Code of Conduct Committee, so I know that for a fact. I also know that the reason, and here's the big elephant in the room that neither Preschool Promise is covering either, is transportation. I had a conversation with Dr. Sheila Burton, who's the Associate Superintendent, who sent me the data on preschool last night, and I asked her, I said, what are the barriers to us having full capacity? Her response was transportation. We know that transportation is an issue, but transportation is an issue for families who are in poverty. Preschool Promise is not specifically focused on families who are in poverty. The other elephant in the room is how are we serving children with special needs? even 3 and 4-year-olds have special needs. How are they going to fit into the preschool promise? The third thing is expulsion and push-out rates. Dayton Public Schools has a moratorium because of our work on preschool expulsions and suspensions. When you look at all the national data, the most recent report that came out from the Yale Child Study Center, and even from the Ohio Department of Education, specifically in Ohio, according to data from the Ohio Department of Education from 2014 to 2015 school year, every single preschooler that was kicked out of school was black, 100%. Black children do not have a monopoly on misbehavior. What we have here is an issue of teachers or other staff not knowing how to deal with children or certain children from a different demographic. Now those are facts, and you can go and do the research on your own. But I think that those are 3 key things that if this preschool promise passes the way that it is, or this issue 9 the way that it is, there's going to be a considerable number of young people that are going to be left behind. And my organization is not okay with that. If this is about all of Dayton, the way that issue 9 is being marketed, it says all, then it truly needs to be all. Because right now, private preschools can decide who they want to serve, and the public schools don't get a choice. And so there has to be some, if you're going to get public dollars, there has to be some accountability, data collection, and equity policy, and reporting, and making sure that every single child is getting what they need if you're going to get public dollars. And I just think that that's the accountability that the preschools who are going to receive dollars from Preschool Promise need to be held to the same standards as Dayton Public Schools.
Mr. Joe?
Yeah, a couple of comments in terms of capacity. The school district is not required to educate preschools. So the education requirement is K to 12. And so the districts, many districts educate preschools using federal funds, and a lot of the elementary schools do have preschools in their buildings. And the way the districts fund that is through the federal grant. Part of the question was capacity. Capacity is an issue in terms of space within the building, and so if the district is not required to educate preschool, we have to make room for K through 6 or K through 8, whatever the grade span is in that building. And so capacity is an issue for the district in terms of space in the building. And so Robin had mentioned too that the district, school districts, Dayton as well as others within the county, are not the only ones educating preschoolers. So there's private entities that are educating preschoolers, and so some of that funding will go to them, and that helps alleviate some of the capacity issues that the district has. But I think it's important, and the data shows, Learn to Earn has shared the data in terms of the importance of educating at an early age, preparing kids for kindergarten, because once they come in not ready for kindergarten, it takes longer for them to catch up later on, and that's really what the problem is. And so the importance of preschool is really something this community and other communities really need to address.
Ms. Lightcup, did you want to respond?
I would just add that I agree with much of what Zakia is saying, that we absolutely have to do a good job of reporting on equity, of understanding what all of our children need to be successful. And I've asked Zakia for advice and invited her to be part of our teams. We have an upcoming meeting about equity so that we can discuss what are the equity issues that Preschool Promise must address. And I've really appreciated Zakia's advice on different entities that are experts in equity that we can tap into to get their thoughts and their leadership, because we need a long-term partner to work with us on this. We don't have all the solutions. Today we had a group of directors that we got together to look at the data in Montgomery County, not just in Dayton, but to say what do we need to address those inequities that exist. So I totally agree that we must address that as part of this. And Preschool Promise does provide an avenue to do that through the preschool classrooms. And I also agree that transportation is an issue for many of our families, especially in Dayton. In the survey work that we have done, the number one the issues that come up are around transportation and people not understanding the importance and the value of preschool yet. So we have work to do there. But that is something that is on the table in our discussions with Superintendent Core about what would be the best way for Preschool Promise to complement what the current investment is from Dayton Public Schools to serve the family. So transportation is certainly on the table as one of those topics.
would there be funding, would there be allowable discretionary funding in that? If the levy it does pass, would there be discretionary funding that you could use toward transportation for this?
We are talking with Dayton Public Schools and asking for, again, what their vision and what their needs are for the community around preschool, and transportation could be the direction that they go. Currently, the preschool in Dayton Public Schools operates on a 4-day-a-week schedule, which again is another issue for our families. Most families, 4-day-a-week is not conducive to meet their needs of the family. And so that's another topic, and that's another item that tends to come up as a barrier for families. So again, something else to be discussed.
Any other comments?
Yeah, one other comment is that Dayton Public Schools also at Rosa Parks, which is an entire school dedicated to preschool within the Dayton Public School District, that the entire city has access to. However, the vast majority of the students that are being served there are students with disabilities. So I also don't want to see Dayton Public Schools just become the preschool provider just for students with disabilities. Because if that becomes the case, then that's also like, okay, so this child can't go to this preschool, but they can go to public school, because that's actually what we have even in the charter setting right now, is that many students with disabilities are not being served in charter or private schools well, so then they have to revert back to the public school district that doesn't have a choice, they have to serve them. And you know, and these are experiences that I'm speaking about directly from parents that we work with and organize with. Parents from students who are at charter schools who also have disabilities, where we refer them to Africans for Basic Legal Equality because charter schools are flat out breaking the federal IDEA law when it comes to serving these students. And so these students are oftentimes kicked out of the charter school and then they're back in DPS. I know that Dayton Public Schools sees that all the time. After reporting for the funding, Dayton Public Schools sees an influx of charter school students, and that's from pre-K all the way through 12th grade.
Okay, we're going to have one more community questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. If you have a question, feel free. Please make sure that they're questions. You can't comment on these things, and I'm sure everyone will be respectful. The last question will be street repair. Maintain street repair and resurfacing has always been a major budget item in reference to city general funds, and is often a recipient of the City Community Development Block Grant Funds, managed by the Department of Planning and Community Development. With respect to this, why and how would the proposed quarter income tax increase be used, and is there a strategic plan for disbursement? Please explain in detail if available.
So currently, the funding that we actually receive both federally and from the state, it has restriction on use. So we can do major thoroughfares primarily with those fundings. So we do streets such as Smithville, Gettysburg, all of your major thoroughfares are really well covered. We can attract that kind of funding. The residential streets, while we do get a limited amount from CDBG for residential, and some of that goes to that 1.3 million, well, we currently need to be doing about 80 lane miles of maintenance and repair per year. Based on that 1.3 million, we're only able to do a little less than 20 lane miles. That's the most that we can attract in revenues to spend in that way. These additional funds will allow us to be able to take that 19 to 20 lane miles up to 70 lane miles per year, which will then conclude in about 8 years, all of the residential streets will be touched, and we'll be able to then keep them in good repair from that point forward.
Any comments or questions from the panel?
Well, I think for me, one of the questions is how does this relate to the broader budget? And particularly, I think the city commission has to do some more explaining or educating for the public. In February, the mayor gave the State of the City address, and it was all positive. In March, we got a report that the 2015 revenue was higher than it had been in 20 years. And then in late June, we get told that we have a $5 million deficit. So I don't know how we went from surplus or balanced to a $5 million deficit. And then you have to look at priorities. So in 2015, I was on the campaign trail, and part of the conversation was around the quality of our neighborhoods, the blight, and the condition of the roads. And what I was saying is we need to look at the $160 million general fund budget we have and carve out the money for those priorities. And the city chooses to spend them in other ways.
Yeah.
And it's not I don't fully understand what their priorities are. We certainly know that downtown investment is one. I mean, here's,
Yeah.
right after they announced the $5 million budget deficit, they then announced that they were spending $500,000 to acquire another building,
Right.
$250,000 to maintain a building that we've already bought, $1 million for a pavilion, music pavilion, and then $450,000 to buy a piece of property that we gave, plus $1 million, the Dayton Daily News property. So we spent $450,000 to buy it back and to try to get it back on track. So I'm confused. I mean, I just don't understand how our general funds are being used, and we end up with a $5 million deficit, and then telling us that we need to raise our taxes to pay for the roads that should be a basic service from the beginning.
That's right. That's right.
We want to give Ms. Clemens, did you want to respond to that? You have
Sure.
any comments?
Sure. In terms of the investments that we make in the downtown area, the earned income tax and actually what is paid in income taxes really represents 70% of the income that the city does have towards its general fund. And so that we used to be able to receive from the local government fund, approximately $40 million has been lost over the last 5 to 6 years. During that time, the city of Dayton has reduced and right-sized its workforce to be able to do more investments and to be able to do the type of investments that will bring more businesses downtown, especially higher paying jobs, because that increases the revenues to downtown that we are able to then reinvest that into the neighborhoods such as streets and roadways. As we lose jobs and if we're not able to attract and do better in terms of the economic development and raising the income, then we don't have those dollars to really be able to put to all of the programs and the needs that actually do exist within the city. And so losing $40 million, we cut over 700 jobs, 40% of the workforce, because personnel is one of the largest costs to the city. We are under 2,000 people trying to provide the services. That's one thing. We are able to go after and attract a lot of federal funds and leverage other people's money in order to be able to do the attraction that is needed for those incomes to be on the increase. We are currently sitting at 1998 revenue levels today. I don't know, I know I couldn't live on my income as of 1998. Inflation has happened. Everything does cost more. We have right-sized, we have shrunk, we have decreased and tightened our belts. At this point, we do not have the monies to put towards some of these outward-facing services because we're no longer receiving those funds from the state. And we are losing and have lost quite a number of jobs. We are now seeing a resurgence in terms of income and more jobs coming back into the city, which has translated into income now rebounded, but we have just now rebounded back to 1998 levels.
Because you bought vacant buildings?
But what?
Really?
Let's, Mr. Rogers, we're gonna ask
Didn't
questions.
answer his question.
We're gonna ask questions. Thank you, Ms. Clemens. Now on to the audience questions. Mr. David Esbody, you have a question.
Sure. Ms. Lightcap, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you work for. Didn't vote for you, yet we're talking about handing over $5 million, which I understand is enough for 1 year of this.
Is that a question?
$5 million gets 1 year of this, even though the tax is for 8 years. We haven't funded out the other 7, correct?
4.3 million is
4.3.
the amount that is being allocated for Preschool Promise per year.
Per year. So
Yeah.
each year, we're going to give you $4.3 million that we don't vote for you, we don't have any oversight of you, and then you hand it out to private organizations. And when we're talking about preschool, you confuse things, because some of the things you talk were not preschool, they're daycare. Because if you're doing third shift, you're not teaching then.
Right.
You're doing daycare. So you're asking us to pay more so we can provide daycare to some private organization for somebody's kids because they work third shift. And that becomes our responsibility? This whole daycare preschool thing has gotten mixed together, and we put the star ratings on, and Title 20 is involved, and there's all these other funding sources. And I'm trying to figure out why my city income tax is paying for you as opposed to paying the school board, who is the people we vote for and we elect to take care of our children.
Okay, thanks.
That's what I'm really confused about. Why do we trust you, and why are you talking about third shift, and why are you funding all these private businesses with our tax dollars?
Okay, thank you. We'll give her a chance to answer if she wants.
Okay, so first of all, you're not funding me. You would be funding Preschool Promise.
But you get paid by them. You get paid by them.
So Preschool Promise, the money that would be passed in the city of Dayton would go to the 501c3 that would have jurisdiction on then offering that funding out, doing an RFP, and deciding who would be running the Preschool Promise program. And so that is how that process would
I think
work.
Secura should run it. How do you feel about that?
Would you like me to answer your question?
Sure, but I'm saying,
Okay.
who elected you?
David, let's let
No
her
one
answer.
elected me.
Right.
And that's why the money does not come directly to me. So the reason that we're talking about second shift and third shift is because the question was raised, why does Dayton Public Schools not just cover all of the Preschool Promise services? And I was explaining that Dayton Public Schools does not meet the needs for all of our families. What we are looking to do is help our families have high quality preschool, and some of those services are provided in alternate locations that meet the needs of the family. It does not mean that they're not getting preschool during those waking hours, but sometimes they might have to stay into a second shift. So the model is designed, and it is similar to other cities that we have learned from who are ahead of us across the country that are using a mixed model delivery system so that we meet the needs of all of our families in Dayton.
I proposed 25 years ago universal daycare.
Any other questions? David, one
And-
second. David, 1 second.
This is not what you're saying.
I know. We love you, but hold 1 second. Next question, please. Could you stand?
I think there's a bit of confusion here about privatizing preschool, and so I was wondering if you could go into detail about that. Will preschool promise be privatizing, and how does that work? So, can you touch on some of this question for me?
Right, so again, what we're looking to do is help families be able to choose what meets the needs of their family. And that will include a combination of public schools. It could be the child care chain, a private chain. Many of our businesses in Dayton are minority-owned businesses that serve our families in child care settings, which includes high-quality preschool. And then we also have family child care providers. Some families choose to take their children to a qualified professional in their home who's taking care of their children. So all of those options exist. We are not privatizing preschool. We are looking to meet the needs of families and provide high-quality preschool services that do that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Next. Zakia, would like to respond?
Preschool Promise, the way that the way that is being described is also how charter schools are run. So they get public money, but then there is, like basically what David was saying, there is no direct accountability to the public tax dollars. So there's direct accountability for locally elected school boards and public school districts. That's the big difference. That's the whole idea around privatization, because it's privatization if there's no open board meetings, if we don't have access to the minutes, if we don't have access as taxpayers to what's going on. We have access to Dayton Public Schools. We have access to elect our school board members. If they are not doing what we want them to do, then we can hold them accountable or elect somebody else. That's not the case with charter schools. That's not the case with Preschool Promise, which I think is what David was getting at, is that there's really no direct accountability to the taxpayers. So that is what privatization looks like when there's not direct accountability to the taxpayers. This income tax increase is taxpayers paying for this. The other elephant in the room is that Montgomery County has already given up $1.5 million to Preschool Promise. And so we don't even have access like to the treasurer's report like you do with a public school district. It's online. You can see how the money is being spent, what it's being spent on, how it's prioritized. None of that is really the case with charter schools or with this Preschool Promise program. We have no idea how the $1.5 million is being spent. And so that's the issue, I think, when you talk about privatization, is really there's a whole lot of transparency that's missing.
Just to be fair, Ms. Lightcap, did you want to talk about how the 501c3 would be able to do that or not?
Sure. So the 501c3, the way it is being discussed is that the board on the 501c3, there would be people appointed by the city commission and by the county commission. And so those people, obviously our city commission and our county commission are elected officials. And so they are accountable to the public. And the way the contracts are written with the entity that runs Preschool Promise, all of those reporting requirements would be written in so that there is transparency and accountability in how the funds are being spent.
Will there be a public engagement process with this? If issue 9 passes, would there be a venue for the public to weigh in on this?
There absolutely can be, yes.
Okay, any other questions? In 1 second, in the back, right here.
Exactly.
From our own experiences, mine was a little bit different. So when you talk about that, not public school settings, but private care settings, which is something I had to use working an 11 to 8 non-traditional shift, and the school district not being able to service the needs, what is the plan for Preschool Promise to enhance or build up the skill level that those private child care providers, trying to build them up to make them more better, for lack of a better word, to improve their practices working with the children?
Sure. So part of Preschool Promise is a very big focus on quality because we know our children need high quality settings and it needs to be education focused. And part of that is helping our teachers get degrees, whether it's a CDA, which is a Child Development Associate, so they learn about early childhood development and how to teach our children those foundational skills that Craig referenced earlier that are key to then being ready for kindergarten and going on to read proficiently in 3rd grade. Also AA degrees in early childhood, BA degrees. There's curriculum that needs to be in place, and there would be coaching and quality assistance provided to help our teachers understand how to implement that curriculum correctly so that our children can learn well, to make sure the resources are in the classroom that children need so that they can learn every day when they're with their preschool teacher. So those are a few examples of how those programs would be improving quality.
Okay, we have another question in the back. Amaha?
I came late, so I may have missed it. And I'm kind of slow too, so I apologize. But I guess I'm trying to understand everything. And I guess part of my question is, and maybe I've already missed it, but like, when are the people who made the actual issue 9, like when are they going to have a panel like this with the, because I think like that's, I think the people who made it need to come better so we can have, I thought that was going to be tonight actually, I was wrong.
We apologize.
I guess it's just like, I'm really torn on this, I gotta be honest, you know what I mean? And so I'm trying to really understand like how this works and what this is, and I think the people who wrote it should be, and I appreciate everybody being here too, but I think that's the conversation that needs to be had, and so I guess my question is there in a future vision going to be that conversation before?
Well, just for information purposes, when we put this together, we did send invitations out to a lot of people. These people graciously accepted the invite. Prayerfully, you know, maybe the city or somebody may want to do another conversation, community engagement piece regarding issue 9. But we do thank you all for being here today. I know.
You do have.
Daryl,
Right.
has a comment?
Preschool promise?
One second.
But Amaha, I think that's part of my frustration.
Right.
The city commission, the city has asked us to do an extraordinary thing.
Right.
Universal preschool, I believe, if I understand the city correctly, we would be the fourth city to fund universal preschool, behind Denver, San Francisco, and San Antonio. And so this is an extraordinary step that they're asking us to do. I personally support universal preschool. I think it's an incredible key to making our community what it can be for all of our citizens.
Yeah.
My frustration comes is that they have an extraordinary ask of us. The citizens deserve an extraordinary explanation.
That's right.
They have combined it with an ask around city services.
And police officers.
So now they've combined these things and confused it. They waited till late June to introduce it to us. They haven't come out and had public forums.
At all.
When Dayton Together was coming up with their proposal, there were 3 large public forums where the community could have been engaged in a significant way. And we haven't seen that in this campaign. And then the accountability piece that they put in place doesn't hold them accountable. It's not specific, and it doesn't require them to come back for a public vote if they want to change the allocation. And so I'm really frustrated because while I want the universal preschool to pass, all of these issues make it jeopardized that our kids are this pawn in this bigger piece that isn't happening.
Mrs. Sparks, and then Mr. Lysa, there was a, I'm sorry, I do apologize, he was first, 1, 2, 3. And then I just want to, because this is a hot topic, if we have our honorable city commissioners here, if you don't have to, but if you want to speak to this issue, feel free. I'll go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Priola. Everyone here is honorable, but our elected leaders that are here. Okay, 1 second, sir.
Thank you. Brett Cox, I kind of want to come back to this Clinton. We kind of spoke about community policing a little bit earlier, but it felt like we kind of breezed over it. And so when I looked at Opportunity for All website, it kind of spoke directly to the hotspots and didn't really mention some of the things that you had spoken to today. So you said that, you know, the hotspots aren't the only efforts that will be focused on out of this budget, but there'll be other community policing efforts. One of the things that Tara brought up, sorry. I'm mixing your last name with the first. Zakiya brought up was quite not being sure about the definition of community policing, one, and then secondly, what are going to be those other initiatives specifically? So if we can answer, I don't want to be unfair, but how are you all defining community police relations, and then two, what are going to be those specific efforts?
Sure. It's really community policing is actually being a part of communities, really getting into the communities, interfacing with residents within the community. I am a lifelong Daytonian, and so I know personally in the 70s and 80s, there were police walking the beat, there were police riding bikes. I knew the officers within my neighborhood. That is kind of the demonstration of you really get to know your community, the police get to know you, you grow and develop a relationship, a positive relationship. You start to understand the cultures of the various communities. We have a very diverse community. And so you're building a relationship over time with the police force and the police force with the community. They're looking at best management practices across the country to see what is working and what is not working in terms of that relationship building piece. Just simply having the authority doesn't, really deliver trust and confidence. from citizens towards police or police towards citizens. It's the relationship building piece is the real strategy here, so that we move from the area of distrust to building trust in each other. And so the strategies would be built around that.
So they're not defined yet.
Right.
Well, community policing is actually building the relationships within those. It is having the presence in those neighborhoods, actually interacting with residents within the community.
Yeah, so I'm specifically speaking to the efforts that we'll be using money for. So like I understand like the broad definition
Sure.
of community police relations, but you said increasing the presence, so those 20 officers in those hotspots are not going to be the only way in which those funds are used. You said that there will be community policing efforts. So do you get how one is like defined as it pertains to the way in which we'll pay for those 20 police officers to increase presence? I'm trying to figure out the other initiatives, how we are gearing those funds towards them, whatever they are, if
Sure.
they are defined.
Sure.
If they're not defined, I just want to know that.
Some are, but also in that is researching what is actually working across the country, always evolving, always trying to find the best management practices that are out there so that you can bring it to.
So as of now, you're still in the research process, which is, I'm asking.
Always, always in a research phase.
So as
You
of
don't-
right now, there
Yes.
is not a defined, like, we are going to use this as it pertains to increasing.
Yes, there are definite strategies within the
What are
Department of Police. I'm not the expert for the Department of Police, but we can definitely bring out and set up a meeting to be able to talk about the types of strategies that the police department uses now. What are the things that they do to look around the country to see what is working and what is not working to help really build that better relationship? It's not we just stand still, we think we're doing everything correctly. That's not the case anywhere for anything that we do. You should always be trying to move forward and improve that process. And so, are we doing it all correct now? No. But a part of this is to make sure that we are always looking to be better, always trying to improve. So do we have all of the strategies now? No. Do they currently employ some of the best practices within this existing organization? Yes. But some folks are innovative, they come up with innovative ideas, and we want to keep pressing towards that. So while we think we're doing a good job, we're not stopping there. We want to improve how we're interacting, how our relationship is with our community. And so we're going to continue to take those best ideas to see if we can incorporate those. We know what we know. We want to learn how to continuously evolve this process. That's the best answer that I can
Okay,
give.
1 second, we're going to do Zakia for a quick, short response. Commissioner Williams, Mrs. Sparks, Mr. Light.
So I'm happy to hear that they're always researching, because Racial Justice Now members went to the mayor several months ago and actually presented a plan to her from Richmond, California. And it's a crime prevention program that it involved the police and the sheriff of Richmond, California County, but it's rooted in a public health approach and has an economic development piece. That was completely shot down. So if we're really trying to prevent crime in quote-unquote hotspot areas, I think that we need to have a definition of where are these hotspots, first of all, because where are you going to put all these cops? And then secondly, is just hiring more police officers really going to do the job? Or are we really going to have a intergovernmental approach where we're partnering with Montgomery County Public Health, right? We're going to partner with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. We're going to partner with all of these different agencies to make sure people have what they need, and we're not just Donald Trump, law and order, lock them up, throw away the key, okay? Because right now, even though we have a Democratic electorate as far as city commissioner and mayor, that's actually the approach that they're currently using.
Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of words. I didn't want to do Tammy totally out here by herself. First of all, thank you to Neighborhood Over Politics for putting this together. Thank you for all the honorable members of the community who came out. I do want to say, so I think Tammy's given a lot of the details, but she probably can give a lot of details. We have other folks who can give even more specific details. I think the comments that have been made today are really warranted. I appreciate hearing them. I think they are questions that we should have answers for you on, and hopefully we will figure out a way to follow up to make sure all these questions are answered. But I just want to just step away and just give you from my perspective of why I'm supportive of this levy. For me, it goes back, I ran for office for the first time in 2001, and in 2001, the city's general fund was roughly $175 million. As we look at and we've had, peaks and valleys, when the recession hit, we really started to go down pretty bad. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've kind of stabilized, and it's gone up a little bit to roughly close to $160 million. So since 2001 to 2016, we're looking at this down about $16 million. That's real money, $16 million. As a result, the city, I know a lot of us look at the city as kind of a community organization, which of course it is, but it's also a business. And within a business, you have to make a decision. When you lose revenues like we've lost, you got to make a decision either to increase your prices or cut your expenses. Since I came onto the commission in 2001, we've had conversations about having income tax increases. My colleagues would probably call me the most conservative member of the commission, and I wear that badge fairly proudly. I've always been against us increasing taxes. I've been against it. But when you take into consideration the amount of revenues we've lost over that time period, where we are now, we've got increasing costs as it relates to inflation. We've got increasing costs as it relates to salaries for our employees. I came to the realization that we've made all the cuts that we probably can make without really causing serious pain to the services that we can provide to citizens. So for that reason, and I still probably came kicking and screaming, I decided to support us moving forward with an increase. And so, when you really break it on down, those are the big reasons. The conversations you have and the questions you have about the preschool promise, I think these are all warranted questions that we need to give. I'm just going to be honest, we've got to get better answers for them. We're going to have to do that. And so I'm going to encourage us to work on providing additional detail, additional answers, that I think all these questions are warranted. But again, taking it back to a basic level, when it was brought to me and showed, now I saw the research around what universal preschool could mean for four-year-olds in Dayton, it became almost a no-brainer that I had to support that part of it as well. But I'll just be honest, for me, I was on board just looking at what we need from city services. You can't cut that much out of your budget. I'm sorry. You can't cut that much out of, you gotta be careful. You can't cut that much out of the budget, as I think Tammy tried to say earlier, and not eventually get to the point where you got to increase revenue. Because your own personal money, if you kept getting, you had 40% of your revenues cut, you got to go out and get a second job. You go get another job where you make more money. You got to drive Uber. You got to do something to generate more revenue. And basically, that's what the city has come to, a point where we're asking to generate more revenue after we've made significant cuts. So if anybody else wants to opine, feel free, but that's my rationale. I just wanted to express it.
And you got to give
Okay,
yourself
Mr.
a
Clark,
raise.
did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just kind of confused as to whether or not these child care providers and people who would be with these children would be guaranteed that they are trained in early child care before kids go in, and not like have a kid go into care and maybe someone, I'm working on towards something. Are these people going to be, and the employees, guaranteed that they're certified and trained in early childhood development?
So that's exactly what we are working towards, so that every child is in a classroom with a high quality and fully trained professional. Right now, basic licensing in Ohio is that you need to have a high school diploma to work in a child care setting, which is why the state has instituted these benchmarks for the STAR rating system that helps move our programs up. And so what we are working toward is to get all of our providers to those higher levels of quality where they do indeed have lead teachers that have that knowledge and expertise in early childhood.
It's not a requirement
It is not a state requirement right now, no. In an unrated program, correct. When you get to those higher levels of quality, it is.
Mr. Lytle, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to point out that the last time you were at $160 million budget was 2009. So you're misleading the public when you say we're operating at 1998 levels. You're operating
Absolutely.
at pre-recession levels. When I became mayor, it plummeted to 154 million, and for the 3 years after, we actually had budget surplus. Now, how can you justify asking us for more tax money when the city commission office has increased their budget since 2013 by $184,000, which is 19%, and the city manager's office has increased their budget by $221,000, which is 19%, and the police budget has only increased 3.26%. So you paid yourself more than the services you're supposed to provide. So explain to the public what you need another $221 million for, and what the commission office needed $184,000 for, $221,000. Okay?
So the question,
The question is, Mr. Lyso, could
Can
you
you
want
tell us what the city manager's office needed $221,000 more dollars for since 2013, and what the commission office needed an extra $184,000 for since 2013?
Matt wants to respond.
okay, because I don't know.
It's actually,
it's not a part-time job. Commissioner Joseph wants to respond to the question.
yeah, it's actually not a hard answer, as the mayor knows. During those really lean years, we left a lot of positions open, and people were working extra hard. It was tough on everybody. When things got a little bit better, we hired back. I mean, that really is the truth. We all took cuts. City Commission took pay cuts. We worked with less staff, and when things got a little bit better, we hired folks back, and that's just the way it is.
Okay, so we're going to go Mr. Fairchild and the gentleman in the back there. Do you have a comment
Well,
or a question?
I was just trying to get some clarity on your comment, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my understanding is the new levy dollars will simply fund 20 more officers. The questions that we had, the comments we had around community policing are ongoing conversations and activities we're doing now at our current funding, and will continue into the new funding. But my understanding is that $2.1 million would simply fund 20 new officers.
Can you respond to that, Ms. Clement?
That is, we are funding or expanding by adding 20 new officers over the current numbers of police officers that we have. So if we're at 345, it would go to 365.
So the only reason why I asked is that earlier when you responded, you said that it wasn't just going to be that there would also be added.
It is not just police officers, because we're actually giving $900,000 per year over the 8 years, and so it's actually more than that. It is more than just funding the police officers as well.
Okay, gentleman in the back.
Yeah, really two things. First and foremost, the idea made about the preschool promise and the transparency of the thing. So you stated that, county officials will elect these people, and that, Ms. Robbins said that you have access as public to those officials who elect those officials. However, when the moderator asked, will that meeting be in the public, or will there be a public forum for that, you stated that it can be. Now, my question is, because in the realm of politics, transparency isn't required, that it's not going to be given. So, what I want to know would be, is there something that can be written into that would state that there will be a way for the public to hold these people accountable? Because Zakia said it too, this isn't by law. You guys don't have to necessarily tell us anything by law that you guys do in meetings behind closed doors, which to me, if it's our money, I know I would like to know what's being done. So I don't know if anybody caught that, but you said there can be, so will there be?
I think we can take that feedback back and come back to you with much more specific language so that you have that confidence.
So again, just to, I got a lot of stuff here on the board, just to say this. So what you're saying to the audience is that you're going to work earnestly to ensure that there's another public forum where those type of questions and transparency can happen. You think we'll be able to do that before the election?
I did not say that.
Okay.
That I would work.
I want to make sure.
Okay, I said that I will be glad to take that feedback back, the question from Tyler, and we can come back with a response to the public at large. I don't know that it will be through a forum. We'll
Okay.
Figure out the.
Okay, so this question, one second, because we got so much going on, 1 second there. I want to make sure, there's a lady right here, and then county recorder. Miss, did you still have a question?
My question was dealing with.
She's seeing me, she's looking at
How
me.
is
Okay, she ain't gonna call me.
join as one community and police? Just hiring 20 policemen to put them in the community is not putting them as one. You can put people there and they don't get along. The culture, if you don't understand where you are, how are you going to deal with the people that you're going to be working with? When you put police in a community and they don't know who they're dealing with or how to deal with them, they may be scared, they may be, oh, I can't do that. If they don't know where they are, how are you expecting to deal with that situation? Public awareness. Are they getting public awareness training or is it something thrown out there?
So one of the things that, the city has worked on and has formed is a community policing organization, a group that volunteers, and the MAHA actually serves on that. And what that does is allow us to hear from the community about ideas and input on how can we actually improve these relationships. And we're building action plans and trying to come up with ideas that we will be bringing out to the community to try to how it's not just a one side solve the problem. This group has come together. There are business folks, there are residents, there are community organizers that also participate with the city. And we're talking so that we can understand what strategies can we build and put in place and then execute, take out into the community. We may fail the first time that we go out, but the goal is for us to keep trying to come up with ideas and strategies that we're going to hit upon it. At least we have formed this coalition, we formed this group to be able to start the process that also has community participation on the group. It's not a one-time fix. This, again, is going to be an evolution in process. It is. It took us years to get to where we are as a nation, and even within our community, it's going to take all of us working together over time to be able to improve the current conditions and relationships that we do have. But we're not sitting on our hands, not trying to solve or resolve this problem, and we're not trying to solve it by ourselves. We are trying to reach out with others in the community to help us actually achieve what we're trying to achieve.
And they're actually going to be going through training before they come on the street.
They go through training before they go.
She's asking about cultural competency training. And she did say that. She did say that. Real quick, I want to be respectful because she did have her hand up and I forgot her, and I would never do that to you, Ms. Viola.
I'm going to address the tax increase, okay? And I want everybody in here to understand. The very people that they claim that they want to help, the tax increase will fall on these people. Because these are the people that work at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, nursing homes. These are the people that are working 1, 2, and 3 jobs. And if you got 3 jobs is going to have tax coming out of it, okay? We don't have any high-paying jobs in this city unless they're downtown where they're putting all of the money.
Right.
Because they're certainly not putting anything in West Dayton.
At all.
Not at all. We have more vacant houses. They want to do this on the backs of the poorest people.
Right.
They're taking the money from the people that are making minimum wage.
Right.
It will never hurt me because I'm retired. A lot of us are retired. We got double dippers. We got triple dippers. We got city commissioners that are triple dippers, okay? Now, they can afford it because they're getting retirement checks plus they're getting a salary. But the bulk of the people that are working in this city are working on jobs like at Walmart, Kmart, Walgreens, CVS, and all of these various places, nursing homes. They're not making any money. This is going to take a chicken, a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread from these people every week. And I cannot, in good conscience, vote for this tax increase. And I have never in my life denied voting for a tax increase. I have always voted for it, but I cannot do this to the poorest in our community.
Okay, so I want to say something. As a moderator, and I guess you would call it a peacekeeper, this is getting a little bit out of hand. I want everybody to have comments and questions, but we want to be respectful of people's time. Thank you so much, Ms. Friola. But let's try to get it, let's kind of keep it to questions, and then we can talk about later on having a rebuttal forum. We can invite people, we can do questions and do some things like this. I want to go over here to County Reporter Blackshear. And you're next, sir. You are next.
Basically, I just want to ask the question. There was a very interesting article today in the Dayton Daily News. It was an editorial by a young mother explaining how this would help her or benefit her as far as this issue 9. And I just wanted to know, can I pass the article out? Because I think it brings a perspective from someone who has a 4-year-old child, who talks about how, you know, the income requirements and not being able to afford the $160 a week to put her 4-year-old child in preschool, and how
okay, we can let you put that at the table and people can pick it up afterwards, because what happened, if I do that, then there's other people who have sheets here who are going to be an opposite, and that's going to get
but people should be informed.
But
You want them to be
It's in the
informed.
paper.
Definitely, but Mr. Freeman, take that from me and put that on the table. 1 second. There was a gentleman in the back who's been very patient.
I understand what Commissioner Williams said and Commissioner Joseph. I was involved in city politics for a long time, and I've seen the city decline because of the revenues being a shortfall coming from the state. And they did a very good job at holding things down and with the very, very minimal cuts that they can afford. If in fact this levy, which addresses some of the things that folks have been complaining for years, like these lots not being cut, streets not being kept up, police, not enough police, this levy addressed that. If in fact this levy don't pass, we're going to get the same old complaints now. And so what I'm saying is, if without this levy passing, all the stuff you're complaining for, you're going to still be complaining. If the levy passed, some of those complaints will go away. That's the bottom line.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. So in the interest of full disclosure, I actually work for Issue 9, so my job is to educate, not to sway you well for it one way or the other. So I just want to point out a point of fact. 60% of the levy will be paid for people who don't live inside the city. So to say that it's on the backs of the poorest is an factually inaccurate statement. All right? I just want to, I am all about civil discourse. I'm all about people having their own opinions, so on and so forth. So let me finish my comments, please. Let me finish my comments. So, Ms. Kim, please finish my comments. So what I'm saying is, most of the residents, or most of the people that will pay for this tax actually work outside of the city limits. That's live outside the city limits. Excuse me.
That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
1 second.
I did not interrupt anybody. Now I get interrupt. All right. Okay. So I do have an actual question because I am a consumer of information. I want to make sure this is accurate. I spoke to someone at the Ohio Department of Education today, and I read the report that you mentioned from the Yale Institute, as well as I looked at a report that I read today from the Kirwan Institute at OSU. My actual question is, where in fact did you find the data that says that all boys that are being expelled were African American? I'm sorry?
I said it earlier. I said the state of Ohio, Ohio Department of Education, in the years 2014, 2015. Look it up.
That's my actual question, okay. Specifically because on page 4 and 5 of the report from Yale, which you referenced, per 1,000 students, only 4.76% were actually expelled, and it does not list the data of their race. They actually don't report that. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just asking where you got it from. I'm just asking a question, man. What I'm saying is the Yale report that you referenced, I just looked up on my phone.
The Yale report is a national report. The number that I gave you was from the state of Ohio.
What I'm saying is that your report actually studied 6 states as well, and the state of Ohio has 2 funded programs, the Ohio Head Start program and the preschool program, which they list, and they did a report on which they got the data from. So I'm just asking for my own information. Where specifically did you get that so I can go look at it as well?
The state of Ohio.
And he's saying he went there.
What I'm saying, I went there and I spoke to the, what I'm saying is, the reason why I'm asking, I'm not trying to be confrontational, is because the Ohio Department of Education said today that they do, when they compile that data, they don't list races, they just report the expulsions because they can't track data. They don't send a report saying, I suspect.
That's actually incorrect. I know for a fact that the Ohio Department of Education is required by law of the federal government that you collect race and gender. That's a civil rights requirement. So you want to know the facts, and you should have did some more research before you stood up and said that.
Okay, we're going to be respectful of everyone. Just, this is not to get on Zakia's side or anything of that nature, but she, as part of the commission, and she went to the state of Ohio to speak with the administrators of ODE, and they personally gave her that information.
It was for HB 410. It was an interested party meeting, and the information came from State Senator Lane.
Peggy Lane. Correct. Okay. We're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes because, oh yes, Ms. Clemens.
I did just want to say, in terms of what the investment would be for a person earning about $35,000 per year would pay as a result of this 0.25% would be $1.60 per week. So an average person that would make about $35,000 a year would pay $83 annually as a result of this tax. And so you can kind of extrapolate from there.
Okay, then we have a question for someone who has not had an opportunity to say anything. Ms. Garrison?
So in 2015, Montgomery County did the opportunity mapping study where they talked about areas where we suffer the most in the city of Dayton. For those of you who may not know, we are I'm probably down to number 3 now, number 3 city that lacks when it comes to being a food desert. We talked about the low opportunity lacking as far as housing and neighborhood conditions. When you look at those areas as far as the food desert, you look at the neighborhood conditions, because I don't care how many students you send to preschool, if they have to live in what looks like a war zone, they're not ready to learn. They're not ready to learn at any level, private, public, 8 to 5, 3 to 6, it doesn't matter. If they're going to preschool hungry, because we're not addressing the food desert, we're not giving them access to quality food, why isn't the increase that you guys are asking for to help in those areas where we know we're lacking the most? Why was there anything, and even if you said we're going to tear down 100 houses with some of this money, that's better because it'll take us from 7,000 to 6,900. Something is better than nothing. If we continue to ignore those things that continue to be impediments to our children being successful and learning and being nourished, then what are we really getting for that additional money? Because it may just be $1.60 a week to some people, but it's $11 million a year to the general fund. 11 million. And for those who don't know, when money goes into the general fund, it can really be used at their discretion. So what you say, and just when you look at the wording, and I'm not stating whether or not I'm for or against it, but when you look at the wording, it says to the extent available. That's not a guarantee, and it's not transparent. And so when we talk about, coming back to the table, I think we should look at some of that stuff. Even if it does pass, what's going to be the accountability to say this is where the money is going, and is it addressing some of those major concerns that we have, and the data shows from 2015 with the food desert, with a child going to school and their parents' ability to get them there, and they have to walk through or fear, getting molested, getting raped. Drug dealers coming out of these abandoned houses. We just had these scenarios on the news. So when are we going to deal with the real issues? We can't just put money and say we're gonna send our children to these schools and not address the other factors, that's not increasing their quality of life. It's not just putting them in a building or just adding more police officers. If you're not dealing with the neighborhoods where a lot of these drug dealers reside and they lay resident so they can do their criminal activities. You can add 20 more officers, but if you're not dealing with the conditions in the neighborhoods, what does that do? What does that do? You're hiring people to protect a war zone. Let's deal with the war zone, because if you make it more livable, the drug dealers won't reside in the neighborhoods. I mean, true or not. They won't sit there and use them as cesspools for criminal activity. Statistics will show. I mean, anybody gonna address it?
Yeah, well, Mr.
You ain't on the panel.
Smith wants to address it, and then we're gonna end with the
You ain't on the panel. Sit down.
But I'm among honorable people, so I can. I can say
You weren't honorable, but gave yourself a raise.
And I know you one of them.
Yeah.
I know you one of them.
That gave yourself a raise. You took a different.
Okay, guys.
Real clearly and real sincerely.
In case you don't know, that's Commissioner Jeff Sims.
No.
Jeff Mims.
Thanks, David. Yeah, they know me.
Everybody
A lot of great points. And I did want to say also that your group came down, Neighborhood Over Politics, came down to the City Commission. I can't remember exactly when, with I think at least 8 or 9 great questions. And we responded to those, I think, in writing to let you know some of the things we're working on and some of the things that we have planned to do to address those issues because of the neighborhood. We also participated in a tour that you had, so we got a chance to ride around on the bus and look at some of the areas in the neighborhood that were of great concern as well. Just want to give you a few things, and I won't take a lot of time to share this with you, but in terms of some of the kind of developments that we've done in West Dayton in terms of some of the money that we spent. You've heard about a couple of things that we're doing in the Solar Bass area in terms of leveraging some money in terms of HUD grants. $1.5 million planning grant, which will hope to leverage about $30 million in terms of working on some things, not only in that particular area, but also in areas all the way down to probably Miami Chapel and over to the Old McCall's, because we recently just sold the Old McCall's site, which will also help us connect with that to a developer that's going to make some additional things happen as well. Job training opportunities for those individuals who live in the Solar Bass area to help them educate themselves, to help take care of their kids, and to help put food on the table, to put them in a better job market. But just wanted to briefly just share a couple of things in terms of West Dayton development and public-private investments. And these, again, public and private, but some of the money we get, a lot of money we get, is leveraging money to make some things happen that we get from federal sources. Since 2010, $50 million has been invested in Roosevelt Homes, units 1 and 2, 40 units in each unit, $8 million in one, $6.8 million in another. Wright Dunbar Apartments, 10 units, $475,000. Wright Dunbar Apartments, Buildings F, 8 units, $850,000. $9 million in the Germantown Village, 60 units. Lions Place 2, 55 units, $9 million. That's on the VA campus. Economic development since 2010, also $86.5 million. Again, a whole list of areas. I can share those with you as well. Transportation, $330 million. Wolf Creek Bikeway area, where someone talked about bikes. Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but we have people who ride bikes. And most progressive cities have those kind of things going on in terms of what they do. $170,000 in that. Pipeline projects that we're going to start in 2017. Whitmore Arms Apartments, which will be another $7.2 million in terms of renovation of 40 units. Working up there near West Town.
I don't want to be rude, Mr. Mills, but could you please...
I'll share that, I will.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not taking sides, but...
No, please don't. But let me finish my statement real quick.
Okay, please, yeah.
It's still money.
That's
and money
federal
that we
money.
use
You
to
talking about
leverage
the
money.
city of Dayton.
No,
You
that's
need
what
to
we
sit
do
down.
with city money and city staff. That's what we do.
Let's be respectful, please, please.
Sit down.
So the issue that we're dealing with is understanding facts and understand the information in terms of what's being done.
I-
Because this person asked me a question,
federal money.
asked a question, so I was giving her an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we can give you some additional information later on.
But that didn't answer my question, because my question was why.
It's the
wasn't-
neighborhood issues that we're talking about.
Right, but my question was, why wasn't in the, when you put together the language for the proposed tax increase, my question was, why wasn't there any verbiage or why isn't there any plan to use any of that money to address the data that came out in the 2015 the opportunity mapping? Because the projects that you listed kind of happened before that time, and some have happened, recently. But what I'm saying is, why wasn't there any language in the proposal, and why isn't it part of the plan to use some of this? Because this is $11 million over the course of 8 years is a lot of money, and we always talk about how expensive it is to demolish some of these housing in the neighborhoods to get the neighborhoods up to condition. So why wasn't any money allocated to address some of those #1 issues that affect this area based on the 2015 data?
Because we're talking about the basic services in terms of what we're using those dollars for. That project is what we're using dollars for, that we're leveraging and continue to try to get federal and state money to make those things happen.
But Mr. Mills, that 1.5 million planning grant, correct me if I'm wrong, that is HUD. And that has nothing to do with Dayton Public, with Dayton, City of Dayton, right? It's investment, but I'm just talking about, okay, we're talking about investment, okay. Real quick, Ms. Clemens?
Can you let Aaron speak to that, because it's answering.
We love you, Mr. Mills. We was Honorable Commissioner. Okay, Mr. Okay. Okay, let's get to one second.
That's the difference.
Okay. Okay. We have Aaron Sorrell, who's the Director of Community Development. So he's gonna respond.
Yeah, the actual budget for the planning grant is closer to $3 million. Half of that is federal. The other half is local investment. So it's city investment, it's county, it's our partners like CareSource and others. So there's a lot of local money that also leverage a lot of federal money. And I do want to say that part of the issue 9 does actually indeed address the areas of opportunity, because the areas of opportunity mapping that the Kirwan Institute did for the county health department, there was a whole slew of attributes that went into what areas were considered areas of high opportunity, what areas were considered low opportunity. A big chunk of that was income. And part of the preschool promise, one of the outcomes of preschool promise would be enabling those individuals who right now are staying home and caring for their children because they can't afford daycare, would be the opportunity to then go out and work and raise area income. So that is one of the issues, along with crime, infrastructure. So it actually is an interesting report if you want to look at it. It's on the public health website. There is a lot of attributes that went to that.
They took it down. They took it
Oh, did
down.
they?
Okay, Deputy City Manager Clemens?
So I did just want to respond to the transparency issue that has come up a few times, really understanding where funds, when they come into the city and how they go out. We do have a current website, it's called Dayton Open Data, where you can follow all of the city's expenses for revenue coming in. You can break it down to the department, to the division. There is staffing data available there, and part of that was to make sure that the city is transparent. You have the ability to go on and to be able to search that database any kind of way that you really want to see how city funds are being expended. Now, with the ordinance, it outlined how those monies are being spent. There will be an annual report out to make sure that we are accountable and we are showing where we have met what we said we were going to do with the money. Dayton Open Data will allow you to be able to track that through the year to see what kind of progress are we making towards that. That's out there now for anyone who really wants to go out to see what's coming in, what's going out, whether it's police, whether it's water, any department within the city. Take that down and you'll be able to follow this through the process and to be able to understand transparency-wise what the city is doing with the current revenues, and if we are successful, and we hope that we are, you'll be able to track whether or not we've done what we said we were going to do.
And will it
Okay,
go into more
one
detail?
second. We're gonna go to Derek Funchal, David Zabadi, the lady in the back, Ty, and we're gonna end this, because we're gonna keep this on time at 8 o'clock. I wanna be respectful. So let's try to get questions. I know everybody, we're all very energetic about this, but I wanna be respectful of everybody, because people came in and from their families, dinner time, homework time. So let's really try to keep it down to questions. We're very energetic, and I am too, but we wanna be respectful of everybody's time, okay?
It's called Dayton Open Data.
Okay, Mr. Fairchild, and then,
If you'll bear with me, I have 4 parts, and there's a couple of loose ends I'd like to clear up. Regarding community policing, I'm part of the HRC, the Human Relations Council, as is AMAHA. We're in the process of having a report on the state of community police relations. And it's in a draft form. I haven't seen the initial draft yet. I encourage you to be on the lookout for that when it comes out. So I just want to say that there's ongoing evaluation of how well we're doing and a recognition that we can get better. I wanted to get clarity. You said there's $900,000.
1.6 million for police, 900,000 for fire and EMS.
Well, now I'm even more confused, because I thought it was 2.1 for police and 800 some for EMS.
1.6 for police and 900,000 for fire and EMS.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, I had a question for you. The six, yeah, the six.
Just ask me afterwards.
No, I think. No, please bear with me. You said 60% of the income would come from people outside the city. Is that in terms of revenue, or is that in terms of taxpayers?
That's in terms of those that would pay the tax, the additional income tax from the levy. That's what I'm saying. Correct.
Okay. And we just have to recognize that.
Because they work in the city.
Yeah.
They work in the city because.
okay, let's let them finish.
I think that this is an interesting situation that the city has put on the citizens, because I think there is merit in the points they make around how difficult it has been to make ends meet.
Yes.
Right.
And there may be a case that we need to raise taxes. And they're putting on us a difficult question, because when you think of a person making $35,000, that person's about $4,000 underwater, because it costs about $40,000 to live in Dayton.
Right.
And so that $1.60 adds up, and so we need to be conscious of that. And then the last point, I wanted to say that I'm on the Greater Dayton Premier Management Board, and we've been working with the city in partnership around these, the $1.5 million, $3 million planning grant with the potential of $30 million, and we just also got the Jobs Plus grant. So those are exciting things, and they should bring benefit into that region. I encourage you to be part of that process, because it really, I'm on the board, I'm really committed to making sure that it's a citizen-engaged process and that we have transparency. But it takes you coming out and being part of it like we are tonight. And then last, so I'm torn, because I don't believe, given all the questions we've heard here and some of the places where we don't have answers, whether the city has made their case and whether we can vote for it or not. They got 28 days to make their case. I'd be glad to work with them to try to make the case stronger. And then last I want to say is we need 2 comprehensive initiatives in our city. I think there's gaps. One is around our blight.
Yeah.
And so while we can pave roads and we can mow lawns, it still doesn't get us to the point where we are addressing a comprehensive plan to bring up neighborhoods, because even while the the importance of doing downtown and bringing business, there's also an importance of retaining our residents who are also taxpayers and bring property income. And so that's the piece. And then there's a piece around lifting up the whole plan of the City of Learners. Because there's 5 goals in there, and universal preschool is one, and high-performing schools is another, and after-school program is another piece, and those pieces aren't part of this, and they need to be. Matt Joseph asked a really important question on September 21st of Ms. Lycap, which is, if you look at the data, one of the key factors is that parents have to be engaged, and what are we doing with the 4.3 that would do that? And I'm not sure that question's been answered fully, and I think that's not something that our preschool providers can do, but it's a comprehensive plan about coming around our preschools and our schools to bring education development, neighborhood infrastructure development, social services, and community development.
Right.
And that piece has to be in place to make it all work.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Question or comment? Question? Short?
Don't start with the question comment thing, because I had a black minister do that to me, and it was.
Well, I ain't the black minister.
Okay, but what I want to get to is you got Mr. Jones sitting there who fought vehemently against giving tax abatements to companies like General Electric.
Thank you. Yes, he did.
They sit there and talk about the money that they don't have anymore and how things are so rough, but 80% of downtown property is tax abated. We got a slush fund already in Citywide Development Corporation that's giving money off left and right to private organizations to fund them. We're funding all this. They're saying they don't have any money, and we're getting things like, oh, we need to hire more police officers. Yet every one of these nonprofits that sits in this city has their own private police department that we have no control over. Can I say Samuel DuBose? Can I say Samuel DuBose? Because I don't want a UD police officer, a Sinclair police officer, a Miami Valley Hospital police officer. All these people, Good Samaritan, Grandview, all of them have police departments while our department is suffering. It should cost you $60,000 to get a license to be a police officer in the city of Dayton if you are not working for the police chief in the city of Dayton. You want to get revenue? Try going that route.
Okay.
Because we could afford better schools, and we could afford more police, if we weren't giving away tax abatements. Last but not least, I tried to look up the organization that's funding this man's job and all these signs and saying this. I looked on the Montgomery County Board of Elections Political Action Committee for a mid-year report. There is no mid-year report. We don't know where the money's coming from to pay for him and for the signs. It all came together after mid-year to pay for these people to do this.
David,
I want to know who pays.
No, I love you to death. This is not that form. I'm not going to do that.
Hold on.
I know.
Who is paying to push this levy? Because the school board wanted to do a tax levy, and at the same time, and pulled out because all of a sudden the city surprised them. But we don't know who's paying for all this money for the signs.
Okay.
We don't have money for signs. I want to know who's paying for it.
I agree with you, David. I agree with you. But we're going to keep this to issue 9.
It is issue 9. Who's paying for the political action committee that's paying for issue 9? That's supporting it. That's a really good question. I want an answer.
So we have one last question.
We all about transparency. Want to ask everybody else questions?
So listen, let me.
I want to know who the donors are. I want to know who
David.
Answer the question.
Ma'am.
Hello, it actually isn't a question, but it's not a far-reaching comment to get everybody up in arms. So first of all, thank you so much, Mr. Fairchild, for your comment about educating the community about the Preschool Promise Initiative. That is the work that I'm leading, and I'm working on that now. And so if you want to be a part of helping us to continue to engage families around the importance of preschool, because that is actually the #1 reason why families don't attend preschool in the city of Dayton, because they don't understand its value. We've done, through our work for Learn to Earn as the Preschool Promise Manager, and we have done a kindergarten parent survey, and we asked that question for families that don't send their child to preschool. The #1 reason is because they don't understand the value. The #2 is cost, and then the third reason is transportation. And we're looking at how if this expand, how can we address those 3 barriers? So that's my job. If you have ideas, if you have work, please come work with me. I will give you my card tonight. But then the second part is that if you all just want to learn more about the Preschool Promise Initiative, we are having Urban League, in conjunction with East End Community Services and the Wesley Community Center, is hosting a forum on the preschool promise on Monday at the Opportunity Center, so right across the street at 5:30. Refreshments will be provided. If you want to just learn more about this initiative, the history, how we got to this place, how we're working with families, how we're working with centers, how we're working with the schools, how we're working with MVCDC, how we're working with the community, that is where you need to go. That's where you need to be to learn more about this initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlemagne, right?
Charmaine.
Charmaine.
Nicole. Charmaine.
Charmaine.
Nicole Wade Webster.
Thank you. We will. Ty, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is a question I just want to comment on. This goes back to the police question. So I'll preface it now saying this. I just graduated from the University of Dayton. I majored in criminal justice and sociology. So I say that to say I know the research because I've done the research, we've done many of the research projects, thesis statements, worked with law enforcement both in Ohio, I'm from Atlanta, and I've interviewed police officers back there too as well. The issue that's not being necessarily addressed in terms of community policing is implicit bias. So when you as an officer first go through the academy, what's required are weapons training, you do a physical, which is a mile, and some other physical requirements. However, what's not required are classes on civility training, community relations, and overall how to talk to people, because those aren't necessarily seen as life or death things, although those can lead to life or death situations. So my question is, and which is kind of what he was asking, he said, you know, what research has been done, and you kind of said, you know, I don't necessarily know that research is always being done. I have done the research and I have seen what this looks like. So when I tell you, and I know that this is the case for the University of Dayton Police, I don't necessarily know about the city of Dayton, but I do know for them, they're not required to take classes such as those that I've named. So is there a way that it can be written into issue 9 that, okay, if they receive these funds to hire more officers, then classes such as those should be mandatory? Because for them to come into our communities, but they don't necessarily know how to relate to us, which is why we see the problems that we see, something about that has to be done, and it's not being done. And I understand that you said, you know, we're always doing research and we're constantly doing research and things of that nature, and that's great, but what is being done also in that research?
Sure, and, you know, I agree about as I can give not being intricately involved with the police department. But what I said is that I think we would be able to get you guys together with Chief Bill to have that conversation. He can tell you exactly what they're doing. That's not my department, so I would have to put you in touch with someone who actually does run the department.
Right, now I understand that, but what is your department is issue 9, and the money that can go into that possibly
Ty is also organizing director for RJ.
into receiving more cops to the community. So I get that, but what I'm saying, and there are also nonprofit organizations around the world that precincts, around the country that precincts hire specifically to address problems that they have within in-house that have done great work. And I think that something like that could be written into this as well. You know, okay, we'll do this well. In order to receive this money, nonprofit organization X must be hired so that they can provide civility training, classes such as that.
I apologize. I'm fine. I hate to cut you off. Let me just say this. I have a couple announcements. As a moderator, I'm really put in a hard place because I have to try to keep law and order, peace.
No,
I know.
about Donald Trump.
Well, not Donald Trump, law and order. Just law and order.
Donald Trump is going to bring that to you.
Miss Creola, I love you. Okay, but let me say this. I know there are a lot of people who still have questions and comments, and this was just a precursor to what needs to happen, and this is part of civic engagement. Can we all agree? We don't always agree, but this is part of civic engagement, okay? So we're going to wrap it up with a couple announcements. Racial Justice Now is going to have a very important meeting, October 22nd. It is the release of the statewide Ohio Discipline Report Card. Senator Charlita Tavares will be there as well. if you can make that, please connect with Zacchaeus if you still need information. It's going to be the Northwest Library on Philadelphia Drive. Again, that's October 22nd for 9:30 to 12:30. And then the regular Racial Justice Now meeting is going to be held October 27th from 6 to 8. County Clerk left some information here that we wanted people to pick up regarding the article, and there was a couple other things. I apologize if I seem rude to anyone. That is not my intent. I just try to keep everything at an equal level to get everybody's opinion. Mr. Cox.
I don't have a question.
Thank you.
It's not part of the dialogue, but one of the questions was kind of like a follow-up to this as it pertains to issue 9, who wrote issue 9, and who can like
Well, can you connect with them? Because they right in the corner.
like,
Right in the corner.
are you the only writer of issue 9? Like, I don't want to.
I'm not the writer.
October 27th, Darryl Fairchild will be there. Any last comments from my other co-founders of NOP? Yes.
Again, we want to thank everyone for their time, their leadership. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, city officials, for being here this evening.
Sit down.
We really appreciate all of the residents coming out.
Sit down.
Just one quick question,
Before
or
you
more or less
drop
a
that
comment.
baby in this
Is there
silky
any
plate.
way that moving forward that we can have additional conversations? Or is there a possibility that some of our questions that were posed this evening, that we can get answers for?
I think absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
barring any other comments or questions, we want to thank you so much again, Neighborhood Politics. Not only Neighborhood Politics, everybody. We want to thank everybody for being here and taking time out of your day. Thanks so much.